Be aware that when I make fun of or otherwise criticize trans entitled men, I'm not making fun of a minority. Men are literally not a minority. Trans, quote, women, unquote, are men. Last night I had the occasion while I was heading out to the grocery and to get dinner to get a notification that Skeptic Haven was having a live stream with a woman and a man, I suspect, about gender. Now, I really would have loved to have been able to participate in this, especially if they would have remained civil, as they seem to do somewhat in my responses. However, I did take opportunities when I was in the grocery and driving, and I was at stoplights and stop signs, and when I was parked waiting for curbside, to reply in the chat. However, as you can see responses to me, but you will not see my comments. Why? Because this person named Bree Badger, whoever that is, decided that since I wasn't going to call in, that he or she was going to block me. And since I am blocked, my comments will not show up. Why am I getting a commercial? It's supposed to be blocked. So I cannot do what I wanted to, was to show my comments and their replies. However, before I start addressing the video, I will look at a couple of comments that enter my thing. So the Bree who activates the ban hammer on a whim, despite the fact that I never insulted anybody, said, if I'm male, I don't get to decide who women welcome into their spaces. Well, you know what? If you're a woman or female, you do not get to decide for other women who is allowed into those spaces. They are designated male, female, man, woman. So a man cannot consent for other men to allow a woman into the men's room, and vice versa. And this has been decided by other women, Bree, but you and these two persons on the screen do not allow women to deny consent to men. And Bree repeats, and as someone with a female body, I don't know, your entire channel is anime. Who knows what you think? That Bree has zero problems with Ember or just about any other trans women entering their spaces. So Bree has confirmed that Ember is a man. Let's keep that in mind before anybody tries to say, how do you know? It has never been a problem in her experience. I don't care. I don't care. Other women are telling Bree, we do not consent. And Bree says, I don't care. That's exactly what Bree is saying. Oh, look, try this weird trick of minding your own business. Well, that would work if men were minding their own business and going to the men's room. It's amazing how stupid these spurgs are. Yep, that figures. The main problem I've had with people trying to police women's spaces have been men trying to interfere with women's spaces. Well, maybe that's you. Maybe you live in some ultra-liberal fantasy world, but there are other people that exist, and even liberals, that say, keep men out of women's spaces, and you do not respect them, and you do not consent for them. And here it is again. You don't get to consent for any women. That is correct. I never argued otherwise. However, I know there are women, and I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's going to be beaten until somebody gets it in their head. You don't get to consent for other women, Bree. Robin. And you don't get to speak for any women. Actually, I do. You see, because I have women relatives and women friends that are against this. And you know what? Some of them are scared to speak up. You know why? Because they know that there are bullies in the trans community that will dox them and harass them. They know that. And they are scared to confront a man when he enters their space. They are scared. So, yes, I do get to speak up. And you know what? There are other women that have approved of me speaking up. I had a woman say, and yes, I had the receipt, that she was very appreciative of me as a man speaking up because her impression is that men don't seem to care. So here we have two disparate things. One person says, well, you're a man, so you don't get to speak up. And another woman says, well, men don't speak up on this. Oh, and here's the dumb thing. Uncarved blocked. If you're unavailable to call in, then you're unavailable to chat. No, that's not true. For one thing, I'm driving and I don't want to be involved in a conversation. And as I said, I was stopping. When I stopped, I would reply, or I was at the grocery, I would reply. When I got home, I replied. The problem is, Bree says, men entering women's spaces because they want to harass a woman they think isn't sufficiently feminine. Well, you know what? If that man has the authority, for example, a security guard, to do so, that's their right. Oh, Bree, you've been putting time out for blatantly transphobic comment. You're free to call in. What was my transphobic comment? Because, you've hidden all my replies. So you can't demonstrate that claim, Bree. Please do. Homophobia and transphobia are both based in sexism. No. Trans entitled men is based in sexism. They are men who literally think they can bypass women's consent to go into their spaces in sports. I've probably been supporting gay rights since before most of these people were born. I definitely know before both these persons on the screen were born. Another stupid comment from Bree because she's ignorant. There is even rare cases where a woman will have two uteruses. Maybe there are, but since they have uteruses, more than likely they're women because that definition is built upon reproductive capacities and pathways. Oh no, here's this lie. We all start out as female in the womb. No, we start out as undifferentiated. It's another ignorant comment from these people that are supposed to be based in science. All these atheists that think just because they're atheist, they think. I think my favorite instances, continues Bree, are women who look female. They've given birth to several children, and then they get their DNA tested and learn they have XY chromosomes. I'm going to question that. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I'm going to question that because I do believe that somebody who has XY chromosomes cannot give birth. Oh, and here's the bully. Yes, this guy's a bully. He said he was going to bully me, and I kept waiting for him to do so. He said, because trans folks can't stop thinking about wieners. Oh, aren't you cute? Well, you know what, hon? Nobody thinks about your wiener. I'm sorry. If I'm thinking about wieners, it's not yours. Oh, look, Ways to Human, which is AJ on screen on the left. You're not that busy if you're here harassing trans women, a trans woman. No, I'm harassing a man. If I'm harassing anyone, I'm harassing a man. Apparently not too busy to type out comments, but if you need help focusing on your work, I can just block you for the rest of the show. Yeah, that's what Bree did. And apparently the blocking deleted all my comments because they are cowards. All right.
It is. We'll put it in the next
out my pull pad, aren't I?
version.
I don't even know where that is. Oh well.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna have to put it in the next version of the Bible. I mean, it's about time, right? That they like redesign it, rewrite it. I don't know.
Oh, well, they're constantly rewriting it, which is what happens when you're dealing with a social construct like religion or gender.
Yeah.
So this person on the left is AJ. Advertises herself as a female. Who knows these days? And the person on the right is shoot, I have lost my Ember. Yes, Ember. All right, so the person on the right was Ember, and a few weeks ago, I also was in the comment section of one of their shows, and again, didn't have the time to actually participate. And they said that I should talk to Ember because Ember would put me in my place. So right off the bat here, Ember makes a false statement. As a somewhat of a amateur biblical scholar myself, no one is rewriting the Bible. No one. No one's rewritten the Bible since I don't know when. And even when they tried to rewrite it, people would tell them no. Bart Ehrman actually has an example of that framed on his wall, where someone tried to change the Bible and someone else jumped in with a note and said, "No, you can't do that." So no one is rewriting the Bible, and certainly no one is rewriting the Bible in modern times. But what's interesting here is he will make fun of, scoff at supposedly this falsehood that he's saying that people are rewriting the Bible. And just like gender, it's a social construct. Okay, so aren't you rewriting gender? And I don't know what Ember's claims are or AJ's necessarily in this position, but are they saying we should eliminate gender? Or are they trying to rewrite gender?
On this topic of today, it's gonna be gender, and I was thinking, religious people like to say that God, is the one who created humans, and that we were created in His image, male and female, and this is why they often will say, there's only these two. But that question still doesn't really answer who gets to determine what that gender is, right? If God is the one who determined it at conception or whenever, then who gives doctors this authority to assign sex and gender at birth? Because when people talk about assigned at birth, they're talking about both of them. They're saying you are assigned this biological sex, and therefore you have to be this gender, which matches, whatever.
So I'm an atheist, so I'm not going to defend any religious claims necessarily. However, she switches from religious to medical professions. This is a bait and switch, and it's a mixing of categories. And if this person wishes to say that gender is how you identify, no doctor is assigning that at birth. Now, of course, we all, even these two, have impressions about what male and female should be. Look at Ember. Ember is a man, yet because he identifies as female, he wears the flowery hat, wears his hair long, wears the earrings, typically assigned to women, wears the necklace, typically assigned to women, wears what looks like a blouse or a dress, typically assigned to women. Now, I don't criticize somebody for dressing how they want. I might make fun of them if it looks silly, just as when I dress stupidly, people make fun of me. But, it's just the nature of humanity. And, sometimes it's my friends. And, I take their criticism or I'll just laugh with them. Yeah, you're right. It does look stupid. Okay, admit that. However, and I'm probably going to show this later because I think it will come up from something Ember says, doctors, or really any human being, really, me, them, can look at a baby and with 99+% accuracy determine their sex. And if gender is just a social construct, then society will determine what that gender is, not an individual. It would be society. And society is not agreed that Ember is a man, is a woman gender-wise. It's only a part of society that has said that. And they can do whatever they want in their own little social circles, but they are trying to infringe on other social circles.
What do you think?
No, in fact, the only place the Bible mentions anything remotely related is when Paul praises eunuchs and says that members of the priesthood or members of the church generally should strive to be like eunuchs in as close a way as they possibly can, hinting that maybe they should like do something about their parts. But that's why some churches have a policy, if not a practice, of celibacy, because they're trying to follow that passage, because it's easier to not fool around than to, do what Paul said to do, which is, it's so fun because Paul is the reason that so many Christians are like, oh, well, I don't have to circumcise my male children because we're not under the old covenant. Paul's like, yes, keep your foreskin, but lose your nuts.
Oh dear. Is this Ember's A game? Is this someone speaking about something they don't know squat about? Is this the person that's supposed to put me into my place? Now, granted, Ember never made that claim. It was someone else. So whoever made that, wow, I'm not impressed yet. So you can see by an AI overview that St. Paul does not explicitly use the word eunuch in his epistles. However, he heavily implies the concept of voluntary spiritual eunuchs, those who remain unmarried. It's likely that the passages Ember is referring to is in 1 Corinthians 7, and this is concerning married life. But however, you need to take into context that Paul thought the world was going to end soon. What I mean, brothers and sisters, is that time is short. From now on, those who have wives should live as if they do not, those who mourn as if they did not, and those who are happy as if they were not, those who buy something as if it were not theirs to keep, those who use things of this world, if not engrossed with them, for this world is present for passing. And he also mentions, and I'm not sure of the translation, to the unmarried and the widows, it is good for them to stay unmarried as he does. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. However, I'm not sure of the translation. I think it just may be a burn, as in going to hell. But none of this mentions eunuch. If anything, it's a metaphor saying just be celibate because time is short, so you may as well. This was not a long-term or a long-term societal bit of guidance from Paul. So Ember is not wrong. It is wrong. Now, Jesus does talk about eunuchs, but I'm not going to get into that because Ember said Paul. Ember can publicly state his mistake if he wishes, but for now, he has been refuted.
Whoops. that was okay. Apparently, it's interesting.
Weird how they just cherry pick. Like anytime you meet a Christian who still has their testicles, they're not a Christian because they still have their testicles. Paul clearly said.
Yeah.
No, he didn't say you have to be clear, but also this is only in reference to Christianity. Like in Judaism, not a big deal. In fact, in the Talmud, there's either 7 or 8 different genders, depending on which version you're looking at. And they include male, female, androgynous, intersex, and trans people going in both directions. So, yeah, if trans people are good enough for God's holy books, then Paul can fuck off.
I'm using Clipchamp to make this video, and I noticed in the replay of the editing that the video of Ember and AJ is stuttering, as I would call it, looking like cheap anime from the 70s. So if that is in the final product, I apologize. There's nothing I can do about it. So this is 7 genders in the Talmud. Now, I know nothing about the standing of this Rachel Zimmerman, so I don't know. She's an editor, holds an MA in Scripture and Interpretation from Harvard, and a PhD in Rabbinic Literature. Okay, so I guess they are qualified. So they have this article, Thought Non-Binary Gender Was a Modern Concept? Think Again. So here's an important thing, and I really should have asked this at the beginning. Did AJ and Ember ever define gender? I keep asking that question to people, and for example, I had one of their, the bully asked me today, taunted me today, and it really didn't bully me. I'm kind of disappointed. I really want to be bullied. I really do. I want these people to bully me. I want them to, because you can't bully me unless I feel bullied. I mean, if you try and I just laugh at you, I'm not bullied. So I really want you to make me feel that, because, I used to get bullied as a kid. I want to remember what that felt like. And, it's been so long that maybe I don't have an accurate feeling in my mind of what that felt like. So please, bully me, make me feel bullied, because I have to feel bullied. So anyway, that person, prophet something, could not answer what is gender, and in fact said he was intentionally refusing to answer it. Well, no, you can't, because here we have something about gender, these two people that apparently claim to be somewhat knowledgeable at the topic, and I don't think they define gender yet in this video. So what is gender? So can we even say what gender designations are unless we know what gender is in the first place? So the 7 supposedly gender designations are zakar, male and female, zakar, male, nekava, female, androgynos, which is Greek for having both male and female characteristics, tumtum, I like that one, lacking sexual characteristics, which of course would be external. So internally, they would still be male or female. Androgynous would still be male or female. Ilonic, identified female at birth without developing secondary sexual characteristics, female characteristics at puberty. Saras Hama, identified male at birth without developing secondary male characteristics at puberty. Saras Adam, identified male at birth without developing secondary male sexual characteristics because of castration. So really, if you look at all these, we don't know the types of people because they didn't have the science to address the issue of number 5 and number 6, but they would still be male or female. Saras Adam is obviously not a new gender. It is a zakar that has lost their parts. Also, what we really need to address is the elephant in the room, that this attempt to look back in the past, especially in the ancient past, and say they had transgenders, no, that's anachronistic. This is an error of historical thought. This is a faulty attempt by a gender ideologist to say, look, transgenders. No, it was an entirely different concept, period. They were not transgender.
Passage too, and I realize we're not here to discuss Bible passages, but I'm prone to tangents, as people may be aware.
Oh, yeah.
So I got it from a while back. I used to be on a Bible study show with a bunch of Bible scholars, and we happened to do that whole passage in Leviticus while I was on the show. And so I got it from these Bible scholars that if you actually don't just look at the one thing, but like look at the whole chapter, there's this big long list. A man will not sleep with his mother because that is an offense to his father.
He will
not sleep with his sister because that's an offense, and like, no, don't sleep with your cousin, don't sleep with your aunt, don't sleep with your son's wife, all this whole long list. Don't sleep with all these women. And at the very end, it's don't sleep with a man the same way you wouldn't sleep with any of these women. So it's saying don't sleep with your male relatives either, you pervs.
Oh dear. More stuff. So as we can see, as an AI overview, Whether Leviticus 18:22 refers only to male relatives, incest, or all same-sex acts is a subject of debate among scholars. So no, Ember, you do not get to get on with the few scholars and decide what this means. You can go with that, but I would say you need to qualify that this is a conclusion that these scholars and you reached. Because as we can see at the bottom, ultimately the text is interpreted by some as a prohibition against same-sex sexual activity and by others as a prohibition of incest or ritualized exploitation. And we could say the alternative interpretations talk about the surrounding verses, talking about the male-male relationships within the family structure and not all homosexuality. However, I think upon examination, that argument falls apart. Whereas we do see it is a lot of family relations in there, a lot of family relations. I would wonder what the secular argument is against these family relations. What would be? Let me know. Does anybody have a secular argument against these prohibitions? Oh, look, it also says, do not approach a woman to have sexual relations during the uncleanliness of her monthly period. Now, does that mean, Ember, that this only means women who are related to you? So you can go off and have sex with a woman who's on her period if she's not within your family? Is that what you're saying, Ember? Now, this other one, number 20, says do not have sexual relations with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her. Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't that only mean if your neighbor was your relative, your immediate relative, right? Wouldn't that mean? So if your neighbor was not related to you, then you could have sex with his wife, right, Ember? Okay, do not give any of your children to sacrifice to Moloch. Does that mean you can? Well, actually, Ember might be okay with that. Some atheists would be, but do you think that's the intent of this? Is saying, oh, you can sacrifice the children of people who aren't your relatives, so therefore it could be Jewish children as long as they're not your relatives. So then we get to 22. Do not have sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable. This is a flat out statement that does not, all these, Ember is trying to argue that all of these are within the context of family. A lot of them are about family. However, the context is not family, it's sexual acts that God forbids. Because we could go on. The next one, if Ember wishes to say that this only applies to men that you are related to, then 23, the very next verse, says, do not have sexual relations with an animal and defile yourself with it. A woman must not present herself to an animal to have sexual relations with it. That is a perversion. So following Ember's logic, since Ember wishes to claim that all the surrounding text modifies these other statements that do not specifically mention family, that it would only be an animal that you're related to. Well, we're not related to any animals. Okay, so we'll say only an animal that's part of your household, your own cows, but your neighbor's cows, if they're not, since you don't own them, since they're not a part of your family, even metaphorically, you can go abuse them all you want. So Ember is quite wrong on this. I would love to see that video, and I'm sure probably know a couple of those supposed scholars, and my impression is they don't know what the hell they are talking about.
Correctly, I'm trying to remember if this was the exact one. It doesn't list your children. And I remember thinking about this one.
There may be reasons for that.
Yeah.
Oh, Ember, it does mention children. I just showed that. I thought you studied this passage. Gosh.
I know. And I mean, it's terrible. I think it's terrible that it doesn't. But it's like, it tracks with, some certain files going around these days.
Well, okay, so that's a whole different thing. They didn't really have an age of consent because consent wasn't required. It was it was a property thing. You would purchase your partners, shall we say, and the one man, one woman thing. That's another one they like to throw around. That's not in the Bible either. That's, I mean, King Solomon, it's one man and however many women he can afford, But as far as the children thing, that's a separate issue. But the Bible is very clear. Adam and Eve had children who then had to interbreed, and then the same problem happened with Noah, and then the same problem, it didn't happen, but they pretended as if it did with Lot, and of course there's Abraham and his sister, and
Now, yes, there's no argument for Noah that I know of, but however, Adam and Eve, it literally says that when Cain left, he found other people, and even unless there was magic involved, even atheists would admit that it would take much too long to find other people within Cain's lifetime of sizable means. Where did those other people come from? In one book of Genesis says God created mankind. So it all depends on how you interpret it. And of course, a lot of this goes on to whether you're a literalist or metaphor and all that. And I'm not concerning Lot. Yes, concerning Lot. Lot, the girls were under the impression that the world was over, but the world wasn't actually over. And I think they were punished for that. I'm not sure. I'm not going to look into it right now, but I don't really think Ember again knows what the hell he's talking about.
There's a lot. There's a reason you can't be that religion and prohibit consanguinity, let's say.
Oh, really? Are you gatekeeping? Are you telling other people how to identify in their religion? Are you doing that? Are you doing that, Ember? Are you really doing that? Are you going that far, telling people how they should be in their religion when you disagree that people tell you how you should be as a man?
Yeah, we know what you mean. So there is a comment in the chat by the Uncarved Rock.
It's me! Yay! Got to me, finally.
Who I've seen this name before, who says that no one is assigned a gender or birth. But that is not
it
correct.
depends on how you mean, doesn't it? Because there's a whole bunch of different contexts. If we're talking about what gets filed on your birth certificate, yeah, kind of are.
What's filed on your birth certificate is sex.
Legally, you kind of are. But from another perspective,
it's not just legal, it's a biological fact what you are.
Yeah, you can't be assigned a gender.
Oh, notice that thing from the chat. Ever heard of a gender reveal party? For these morons that continue to do this, gender has for the longest time been a euphemism for sex because, I don't know, I've heard that a lot of people were upset when sex, because, people used to say, men would say her sex, and they meant that she's a female. But at some point in time, sex became a term for intercourse, and people were upset by this. So, you see on a thing, it says sex, you go, oh, well, often, never. So they started putting gender, and it has always been on documents, legal documents, and you go to the doctor, or you go put in a job application, it means what is your sex. It's always been that way. It's only within the past 10, 15 years that a minority has been trying to change that.
Because you are your gender, even if the people...
Yeah.
No, you are your sex. What is gender? What is it? Did you guys define it? If you did, I missed it. Give me a timestamp.
Yeah.
There at your birth can't figure that out yet.
99.5% at least. It's very obvious what your sex is.
Well, but they kind of do because so we always say that gender is a social construct, right? The idea of girls have to wear pink.
So is money, but I can define money without calling it a social construct. What is gender?
And play with dolls, and cars are for boys, and the we are blue. So that is a societal construct of what we consider what very, very super
Wouldn't that be gender expression? Playing with cars, playing with flowers, whatever. So what is gender?
simplified, right? But all this to say that when babies are born, they won't generally say it is a female or it is a male. They're not talking about the sex. They will say it's a boy or it's a girl, and it is
Boy and girl, in their definitions, incorporate male and female. Why is this not clear to you guys? It is literally part of the definition of boy and girl. Just like a fawn is a prepubescent, for lack of a better word, my brain's not working right now, deer, boy and girl, since we don't have one word, I guess we call them children. So I guess fawn is equivalent to children, maybe. But since we don't, it has to double as boy and girl. For deer, they are they can't produce large and small gametes right now. So their sex is not realized yet as far as puberty goes. Boy and girl, AJ, are terms for young men and young women. It's exactly what they are. So yes, when they say boy and girl, they are still determining male and female, which again, 99+% accuracy by any moron walking down the street.
expected that the parents will raise the child to fulfill those social ideas of what that means.
And that is a parent's right. You can disagree with it all you want, but it's a parent's right.
It can be different in different cultures, but it is expected that if you have a boy, then you raise them as what society thinks a boy should.
Actually, very commonly, we see across all cultures is that men typically fight, women care for the home. Women forage, men hunt. This is very consistent. Very consistent. There might be a few minor outliers, but across all of history and all of cultures, it's very consistent, these typical gender roles.
Be or behave like. So they do kind of assign a gender.
Yeah, they apply a collection of stereotypes that they associate with your anatomical configuration, like the boy girl thing.
Yes,
give you a blanket or a blue blanket or something.
What is gender?
And they'll paint your room a certain color, and you'll get one of those hangy dealies, a mobile with different things on it. Like if you're a girl, you might get stars and rainbows, and if you're a boy, you might get airplanes and space shuttles or whatever. And
interestingly enough, before my daughter was born, we actually decorated her room, even though knowing she was female. We painted it green. We had lions and animals on the wall. And we generally just let her wear what she wanted to.
And they don't know until later. They're taking a guess based on stereotypes.
Yes, I know men will say, "Oh, it's a boy, I want a boy." I personally wanted a girl. But we still don't know what gender is. And odds are a boy is probably going to grow up to be what we commonly think of, whatever the stereotype is. And so will women. Now, they shouldn't be bound by that. They shouldn't be restricted by that. But we do recognize, why is Ember wearing this flowery hat, the necklace, the blouse dress? Why? Why is Ember doing that? Because actual women do that. So Ember is actually giving in to the stereotype of women.
Because they're like, well, most boys probably would like this. Most girls might enjoy this. They don't know.
Yeah.
True again, but it's an odds thing. It's an odds thing. Ember admitted most. Ember admitted that. So it's not a faulty thing to go with the vast majority of conclusions that we have reached by observation. Ember has already conceded this argument right there. You really need to pay attention to what they say, because they will make mistakes like this and slip it out. Most. So it's really not too faulty to think that your child will grow up a certain way, because Ember has just granted most.
Don't blog is continuing to say, no, our sex is observed and you never change sex. And I don't think
How?
anybody's transgender. Gender. The word gender is in there.
Right. Most trans people aren't changing sex, but it also depends on what you mean by sex. What are you using to measure sex? Are we talking hormonally? Because you absolutely can change that. Are we talking?
Sex is the reproductive pathways that your body takes. And this can be actual, current, historical, potential, or broken. So there you are. That's what sex is.
Anatomically? Oh, you can absolutely
100%.
change that. Like,
no. You cannot anatomically change your sex. You can get a front hole, that it is just that. It is a hole. It is a person's penis turned inside out and sewn in their taint, or above their taint, wherever the male taint hole would be. So no, you are not getting a vagina. You are not getting a uterus. You are getting a front hole. For trans and identified women, they are not getting a penis. They are getting their forearm ripped off, molded, filled with whatever. And I've recently heard, I haven't verified it, that a woman that wanted to transition was told, the doctor said, you can either pee out of it, or you can be able to use it for sex. Not both. Now, if that's true, I don't know, but if it is, you are not getting a penis. A penis serves both the function of urination and providing a device to impregnate a woman through her vagina. No trans-identified persons who get bottom surgery are getting sexual parts. They're getting fake things. They're getting plastic surgery. And even men that get top surgery, they are not getting mammary glands. They don't have breasts. They have things that look like breasts, but are not. So Ember, again, this person that someone said would stomp me, is wrong again.
What do you mean by sex when you say that? I feel like you're kind of oversimplifying. But also, when you say...
Who's oversimplifying? Maybe you're overcomplicating.
Sex is observed. What do you mean? Because you're sure as hell not looking at chromosomes.
Oh my gosh. Here it is again. This thing that somehow anybody has a 50-50 chance of being a man or a woman just by observation. No, that's not true. And it's definitely not the case. Actually, well, I mean, I guess before they're born, if we don't do an ultrasound, they have a 50-50 shot. But once they're born, it's quite obvious. Male, female. Males have penises and scrotum. Females have the clitoris, labia, and vagina. But for external criteria, it is 99+% accurate, Ember. Are you going to tell me that if I could somehow convince you, and it was a fact, that you were going to win the lottery if you entered, and I said you had a 99% chance of winning, are you going to sit there and go, well, I shouldn't enter because I might not win? No, you would enter. You would. And this is the same thing that we observe throughout history, male and female, and 99+ % of the time, it is accurate. And you are clearly wrong, Ember. You are wrong.
You're definitely not getting gametes out of a newborn. So what do you mean? You know?
Yeah, I hope that the Uncover blog will call, but from having observed them in the chat before, yeah, that's not.
I'm sorry. What's the chat for? Is the chat for chatting? I mean, really, what does Skeptic Haven want out of their chat? Do they want people engaging in the chat? Because not everybody is as bold as me and wanted to go online. Some people are comfortable chatting. That's their mode of communication. So what does the Skeptic Haven want from their chat? I have gone into conservative spaces because, believe it or not, I am not a conservative. I'm far closer to liberal than I am conservative, although I do not consider myself a liberal anymore. But if there was a graph, I would be to the right if the liberals, well, okay, we should do that backwards because we had those terms. Okay. So I would be closer to the left than I would be the right if there was a graph. In my mind, the graph had the liberals on the right. I don't know why. So I have literally gone into their chats, and yes, some of them have said, "Why don't you go live? Why don't you go live?" And yes, they keep doing that, but they don't ban me. They don't block me. They don't sit there and go, "If you don't come on live, I'm going to kick you out of the chat." So you guys are being far more belligerent to people in your chat than conservatives are, because at least I've never had a conservative channel block me. Never, not once. And I've said quite a few things that are mean to them. But you know what? They just laugh it off, as you guys should do.
Very likely. They will probably just continue to not be part of the conversation anyway.
In the chat, I am part of the conversation. And you didn't have to reply to me. I was just commenting in the chat. I could have just dealt with people in the chat, which I was doing. But you guys blocked it, so I can't show that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? People have so many different ideas of what they personally think should be the thing that determines sex. And it completely ignores actual science.
Is there no actual science behind reproductive pathways? How do you think that we as a species got here? How do you think? Do you think it's by people with DSDs or gay people or, transgender people who got their parts removed and got so much chemicals in their body that they can't produce their gametes anymore? I mean, what is this my own idea? This is not my own idea. This is biological reality. You tell me what the function of sex is and how successful we would have been if the way you guys are portraying it, the sex was some sort of 50-50 shot. You may not be your sex at all. Oh, you don't. Oh, these guys are somewhat irritating.
Yeah, because that's the last few days on Deep Dive Daily, we've been covering some weird ideas that people have, like young Earth and flat Earth and so forth. And it usually amounts to people deciding that reality is wrong and they themselves are correct.
That would be you guys. You guys have decided that reality is wrong and you guys are correct. Because I am not saying anything that is not in a biological textbook. And when we talk about man and woman, it's a general definition that they have the reproductive pathways geared toward either producing large or small gametes. It is you guys that are trying to say, well, no, it's about hormones. Oh, it's about this, about that, about that. No, it's about reproductive pathways. All the hormones, all the external parts, the bone density, the size, the height, the shape of our skeletons. I mean, when Ember dies, if 1,000 years into the future, somebody pulls out Ember's skeleton, it's going to be male. They're going to say that's a man. You cannot change your skeleton. Well, I guess you could, but it's going to hurt. You can't, your skeleton will not change just based on the way you identify. I should say it that way. Because I know people do get their bones shaved. Oh my gosh.
And it's wild, but that's what we're talking about with this.
I agree. It's wild that you're trying to determine reality on identity when identity is literally subjective. And in philosophy, objective takes place over subjective.
It's kind of, let's be kind and say gender critical conspiracy theory. It's the same thing. It's young Earth, it's flat Earth, but applied to gender for political reasons.
Oh, you don't have to be kind with me, honey. But I've got the high ground.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I know that like our community in general, like the vast majority. I know there's a few that are not. But our community is generally very trans friendly. We have.
Yes, they are. I mean, and this has been an amazing discovery of mine over the past year of how much you guys have bought into this narrative and this ideology. And, I am sort of in the wild here because I'm not religious. So that keeps me out of some religious communities. And then I do not endorse this ideology as far as it infringes upon the consent of women and men. But you guys do. And you pretend that you have all this stuff. You have all this stuff that backs you up. But not once yet have you defined gender. I'm waiting.
Lots of allies. So I figure that we don't really need to, educate them on that specific aspect. That trans people deserve basic human rights, or that they deserve the
What are basic human rights? Or are trans entitled men wanting special rights? See, I treat men as men and women as women. And they try to say that I am denying men the ability to enter women's spaces in sports. No, I'm acknowledging that a lot of women do not want men in their spaces. And this is based on objective criteria. 99+% of the time, this person entering a female space is a man.
right to exist in peace and authentically. But I think that
Then stop forcing yourself into female spaces. Well, not AJ. You know who I'm talking to. AJ's saying this, but I'm talking to Ember and people like him. Stop forcing. You want to live in peace? Then treat others the way you want to be treated.
what we can do today is help some of our viewers learn how to better handle all of these really problematic statements that people tend to make, right? We
To those listeners and any I may have, don't take their word for it. Don't take mine. Do your research. But these people have swallowed the kool-aid. That's my opinion.
we saw a post I made this morning. It already got like over 250 comments, complete random strangers. The question was, what is a woman? Simply that, right? And it
Adult human female.
got so many absolutely problematic statements. There was
the biggest get fired
one.
up over that kind. It's like it's bait. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because if they were,
it's not bait. It's pointing out the fact that you guys don't know what the hell a woman is. You don't, apparently. So I will wait again. So we have what is gender, and now we're going to go on to what is a man or a woman. I guess we're going to look at woman, but they correspond to each other.
educated on the subject, they could explain it, but they're not, and so they just.
I'm educated on this subject. Please let me know what I'm not educated on. Don't just name these anonymous studies, these anonymous decisions. Let me know.
Kind of their brains melt.
Wait, there was plenty of melting going around.
Okay, AJ, I'm going to look for this post. I hope it's public.
I liked the sort of response that one of our friends, Eli, says, and it is.
Oh, is Eli the bully? I think that's the bully. Let's see what he says. Please, Eli, bully me. Make me feel bullied. I want you to.
Being a woman is basically someone who performs the gender of woman. And
what is gender? And what is the gender of woman? And AJ likes this. It said nothing. A woman is a person that fulfills a woman's gender. That's circular. So I don't know why AJ likes that. Ember, if Ember is this academic, or I respect the as one myself, I respect the autodidact. I don't know what Ember's qualifications are otherwise. But Ember should be pointing this out. This is what some of these atheists do. They just back each other no matter what. And I'm sure Ember agrees. But still, if I were there, and I would hope that even if I supported men and women's spaces, that I would still acknowledge that AJ is saying she prefers a circular definition.
I don't mean this as a negative thing, right? Because being a woman is a whole experience. And
Oh, what is that experience? What is that experience? And is it an experience that you can opt out of? Tell me, AJ, can you opt out of being a woman? Because Ember can.
Right. Like, what do you mean by woman? We know it's a social
Yeah.
construct because it varies from culture.
Woman is not a social construct. Woman is not a social construct. Woman is an adult human female, and this is biologically consistent throughout the world. They don't sit there and go, well, a deer over in China is not a deer. That's just, deers are only deer in America, and over in China, they're not deer. They're some other species.
To culture. Like, do you wear a kimono? Do you behead your cheating husband when he's comes home from philandering? Like, what does it mean to be a woman? Where is the line where you become a woman?
Okay, I hope Ember says that. Let me. I'm waiting. I'm waiting, Ember. I have confidence in you since somebody said that you would stomp me.
Is it when you have your bat mitzvah? Is that a biological step? Like, what is it? What is it?
Oh my gosh. Now, I'm not an expert on Judaism, but a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah is a recognition, a social recognition of a child becoming an adult. Okay, that's all it is. And they, I don't really know how they determine it. I don't know, especially with the boy. With the girl, it could be her first blood. I don't know, but it is not even within the context of Judaism a biological claim. It's a social claim. We are welcoming you into adulthood, and now you need to prepare for adult things, because surely Ember recognizes that adult things are not child things.
It's culture. Every single part of it is culture. So yeah, it's a social construct.
yeah, it is. And
What is gender?
it is. And it's something that we
Every nation on earth does it differently. What it means to be a woman or a man varies from nation to nation, or even within parts of.
Not biologically. They could have different assignments in culture. However, as I said, and this is demonstrated by virtually every culture and society throughout history, that typically men are the warriors, men are the hunters, men are the protectors, and women are the homemakers. They take care of children. They give birth because they're women. They're the foragers. This is consistent, Ember. Very consistent.
Of nations. If you go to a certain part of the United States and you talk badly to a white lady, you're going to have a bad time, because that's what men do, is fuck up people who talk badly to white ladies.
And Ember is a man.
I guess.
Ember is a man. I don't know where Ember gets that he is somehow different and special.
So, but to me, this is really interesting because whenever whenever those type of people, you're like, well, what are the sort of like the requirements, right, to be considered a woman in this culture, in this age, right? We're not thinking about different cultures. We're not thinking about different ages. We're like, whatever it is here in the.
Why is AJ trying to talk about things that she literally supports can mean anything? I mean, okay, we'll see if that's part of our argument. But The biological definitions are not according to me, those are according to facts. And we're trying to establish why identity gets to override facts. And I'm still trying to figure out what is gender. And let's see if AJ can answer what a woman is.
American area that we live in. Although obviously we do have Native Americans who have different ideas of what specific genders they consider.
Oh yeah, every
right?
culture on earth has a different
Yeah.
idea. There are a lot of places where they try to keep it to two genders, but for the most part, most of the world has understood that there's more than two, and always
What is gender?
have been, because they're social. The understanding of which broad categories of gender varies. Like, as you were mentioning, a lot of Native American tribes recognize a third gender that's somewhere in between.
Name one. Name one. Go ahead. I bet you're taking it out of context, if it exists at all. And please don't rely on some woman in the 90s who had a dream about a third gender.
Most tribes have their own name for it, but generally speaking, we often refer to it as two-spirit collectively.
Yes, and that two-spirit claim comes from a woman that had a dream.
In India, there's a third gender called Hijra, which is basically woman, but distinct from biological woman, as you might say, you know? So there's there's maps there. In fact, on my website, betterthanember.com, you can find a website to gender diverse cultures across the world and
What is gender?
across time. Almost everyone has had a different idea of what gender means and how many genders there are.
What is gender?
This man and woman only thing is something that is really new. As much as the gender criticals like to say anything else is new. No. We've been around longer than there's been fucking writing. There's prehistoric statues of us. The new
No, you're being anachronistic. There might be statues of some sort of creature or person, but no, they were not necessarily transgender.
thing is this only man, only woman thing. That is a colonial era European idea. It only showed up in the last few centuries, and the countries that have it because they were colonized. It was forced on them by the
What about the Chinese? I'd be curious.
European aristocracy.
Exactly. It's a white, and I try to make this point to somebody.
And just because these distinctions were made possibly by European aristocracy does not mean there aren't underlying facts between man and woman.
Who got pretty offended by it. But the fact that femininity or the idea of when somebody thinks of what it's like to be a woman generally
What is a woman?
is based on white woman, on the idea of what a white woman looks like, you know? And that is what you're expected to perform as.
Yeah.
Well, in our culture, that's because we are predominantly white. We have been for the bulk of American history. We are still, not by much as much anymore, but I think in the 70s, America was like 75 to 80% Caucasian. And recently, I think we're 55 to 60. But, that's why. That's why. It's not anybody's fault necessarily, because wouldn't it be disrespectful for a white person to dress as a black person does? Or wait a minute, AJ, why can't a white person identify as a black person and get all the benefits and detriment that a black person get? Why can't they? What's the difference? Isn't it just an identity?
Which is why, brown-skinned women are like, oh no, they're actually men. Like, Imani Khalif, for example. Oh, she's too brown. She must be a man.
I have literally never seen anyone say that. Never. Show your receipts, Ember. I've actually disagreed with people when they say Imani is a man, because, there's currently this thing going around that Imani has admitted to, I think, having swire or something similar. I tell them, no, Imani has not admitted that. You need to read the articles correct. The article is adding an interpretation to what Imani Khalef has said. I'm still on the fence about Imani, but I have never heard anyone say because she is brown, she is a man. Never. Show your receipts, Ember. Show your receipts.
What? You don't think there are brown women?
Or this idea that if you look masculine, then you must be a man. But
No, I don't know anyone that necessarily has that idea either. And I go in these circles. But AJ, where are you getting this from, AJ? This is just, isn't this a stereotype? I mean, what do trans-identified women try to look like? Don't they look like to have broad shoulders? Look at Buck Angel. Doesn't Buck have wide shoulders? Why?
Again, brown. There are plenty of brown women, especially like I know I don't look very dark, but I am Hispanic, and I have hair pattern that is not necessarily very feminine looking. Let me just put it that way.
I don't know. Your hair, as I understand it, you're doing a fundraiser for the St. Baldrick's Foundation. Once you do the thing, your hair pattern will look very much like a famous Irish singer from a couple of decades ago.
Oh, right. You're right. Maybe.
And Sinead O'Connor was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And very few women, as far as in media, could pull that off. But she did. She pulled it off. Beautiful.
Huh. Good point. Yeah, that's funny. So this uncovered block person is saying that
woohoo! I'm back. Yay!
Trans women should stay out of women's spaces, and somebody was pointing out that this person is a male, and he's like, you do not get to consent for other women, but apparently a man in the chat is consenting for other women.
I am repeating what women say. So, and it doesn't matter what your opinion of what I can consent to or not. Women do not consent to people like Ember, people like Arden Hart, people like Josie Caballera. I know I'm butchering that last name. Do not consent for those men to be in their spaces. Women don't consent. Okay, so you guys cannot pull this crap. It's not my decision. It's the women. It's their decision. And you cannot say that just because you don't have a vested interest in this, then you cannot say. I would lay dollars to donuts that these two support Palestine and probably do not know any Palestinians personally, but they still support it. And again, it does not matter what my position is if my position corresponds to that of women. And these two are already saying that, well, whatever your gender is, it doesn't matter. I don't really know what the hell they're saying about gender. Because on one hand, they're saying that gender defines things, but on another hand, they say it shouldn't because it's a stereotype. Okay, so which is it? Are we eliminating gender altogether? If we're eliminating gender altogether, then I get to speak to this matter because we've eliminated gender. And if we're not eliminating gender, what is a woman?
What is happening?
Well, that's the patriarchal gender system.
Oh, the man is trying to say this is the patriarchal gender system. And what this man wants to do is enter female spaces. But this man does not see any patriarchal authority that he himself is demonstrating that says, I get to override the consent of women and enter their spaces. This is irony, folks.
The women don't get to speak. The men speak for the women. They tell us what we're allowed.
I have been given permission and even complimented that I speak up on this because some of these women are scared of you and some of them don't want to confront you. And some of them just want to live their lives, even though they have this position, but they hope somebody speaks up on this. So I am qualified as anyone else as part of the social construct to speak to this. But you, Ember, are being a hypocrite.
To do and who we're allowed to be. And that
you can be whatever you want in the privacy of your own home and to some extent in public. But however, the social contract says men do not enter women's spaces without their consent, and no woman can consent for another woman. You guys are being so hypocritical. You're saying you're withdrawing my consent, but you're saying AJ's consent rules the day. Why? Oh, because she's a woman. Well, wait a minute. Does AJ consent for other women? No.
That's just fucking dandy. But
oh, you're fucking dandy, Ember.
There's an organization called Not in Our Name. And it's a bunch of women who are telling the men who are doing the complaining about trans women basically to shove off because
there's organizations like Let Women Speak and Sex Matters that are telling you to fuck off, Ember.
You don't speak for us. You don't get to.
So wait a minute. Do you tell Matt Dillamonkey and Jimmy the Cub and that moron, what's his name, Professor Dave? Do you tell them to shut up? Or do they speak on this? Professor Dave has several videos on this. Why does he get to speak up and I don't? Be consistent. If you're going to tell me to shut up, tell all those guys to shut up, okay? Just because they're saying the affirmative of what you want to hear, Ember, does not mean that they are still not speaking up on this matter when you two are saying men should stay out of it. Okay, be consistent, Ember. Tell them to shut up, and I'll see if they do. Tell Godless Engineer to shut up on this issue. Go ahead. I'll wait. And while you're at it, tell yourself to shut up about this because you're a man.
Take actions in our name, not just without our consent, but against our will.
You are a man, so you do not get to consent for women. And AJ does not get to consent for other women. This is your own argument turned against you.
So, maybe mind your business and keep your business in your own pants. Thanks.
Oh, really? Another rich statement from this man. Keep your business in the men's room.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to protect women and girls, maybe do something about all the cis men who are doing the attacking.
Oh my gosh, this is rich. They always go to this, cis men are doing attack. No, honey. No, honey. Go to peaktrans.org. Go to transcrime, and you will see all these men committing these things. On what have the last 3 or 4 shooters been? Either trans women or men with relationships with trans people. So where do you get this cis men are harming people?
Of women and girls.
Because, come on, are you telling me that trans women go through therapy to get approved for?
Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. So you must disagree with Ardent Heart because Ardent Heart says identity is the only criteria. Okay, Ardent Heart says that or something similar to it. I have it saved somewhere. I'm going to actually make a video on it someday. So is it identity or is it only, AJ, these men that put all this effort in? Which is it? You can't have it both ways if you're going to make this argument. Can somebody just identify as a woman and not go through all these procedures? Would you restrict them from the women's restroom? If you do not, then you can't use this argument. AJ, specify what you mean.
for for hormone treatments or for surgical treatments. Then they go through the hormone treatments and the surgical interventions.
No, not all of them do. In fact, bottom surgery for trans quote unquote women is a very small percentage.
All of that, so they can sneak into the women's bathrooms to do evil things. Seriously, no. Right here in Houston,
It is very interesting, and I said this in the chat. Again, they deleted it. It is very concerning that they always jump to violence in this matter. They always jump to this, and it is very concerning. It's very concerning because what this indicates is, one, they only see violence as the only criteria that should keep men out of their spaces. And two, they don't care about any other criteria. I actually lost my number two. But anyway, they don't worry about privacy, they don't worry about comfort, and they don't worry about consent. It's only whether or not this person will be prone to violence. And it can be demonstrated that trans entitled men are just as prone to violence as non-trans entitled men.
4 months ago, at one of the large sports events, football or something like that, one of those, football or baseball, who knows?
The
I don't care.
sports thing.
I don't do sports. A sport, yeah, exactly. It was a big stadium, and this guy, very, like the guys will be like, oh, that's clearly a man because bushy beard, he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, short hair. What one will assume is a male-looking person. Walk right into the women's bathroom. Absolutely no disguise, not at all. No hormones, no surgeries, no address, nothing. Just walked right in and was looking over the stall at a 12-year-old little girl. So,
yes, that's a man, just like Ember is a man, just like I'm a man. We are all men, and he should not have been doing that.
I'm sorry, but like when men
Is AJ aware that there's video of a man who identified as a woman in a restroom masturbating, and you could literally see his shadow? Is AJ aware of that? Does AJ support that?
when toxic men are
Toxic men. Not all men are toxic. Okay? Not all men are toxic. Men, as a whole, express more violent tendencies than women. That is part of a man's nature. Okay? And yes, we need to control that. We need to control our biology. We need to control our impulses. Some of us have mental problems. Not me. Well, I probably do, but nothing like that. We need to control our tendencies. And trans entitled men express these same tendencies as all other men. I am not discriminating. You guys are wanting special treatment because, oh, you have friends that are nice. Are you claiming all trans entitled men are nice? Are you? Go ahead, make that claim because I'll demolish you on that one.
we're talking about, these are just guys trying to go in and abuse women and little girls. No.
Very few people, if any, make that claim. Very few, if any. And it's very weird that you guys immediately jump to that. It is very weird, very concerning.
You are worried about cis creepy men.
No, I'm worried about creepy men, period. Are you saying, AJ, that no trans entitled men are creepy? Are they somehow excused from being creepy? And how do we tell? Please, whichever claim, either you concede that some trans entitled men are creepy, just like other men, or you somehow have to demonstrate that trans entitled men are relieved of this biological mental capacity that some of them have. So which way you want to go, AJ? Because I win either way.
Not trans women. Trans women are not the problem.
Men are the problem. You are wanting to claim a special category of men that are not a problem. Again, same tendencies.
The problem is cis men. You know? So it's like they're completely ignoring the problem, which is themselves.
No, I'm not ignoring the problem, AJ. You are. I'm saying that trans entitled men are like other men as far as this goes. And no, don't ever say that to me or I will cuss you out. That is not me. Okay, I'm not talking about myself.
Yeah, well, it's never been about protecting women and girls. You know, I mean, we discovered recently from the files that the entire problem with trans people thing, we'd always assumed it was because the conservatives could no longer use gay people as a scapegoat for everything that's wrong with society because they lost in the Supreme Court, which is why trans people only became a problem immediately after that Supreme Court ruling.
Trans people became a problem when men started entering women's sports, and men more and more commonly, without passing, without getting away with it, because people did not know. But now we have people like Lily Tino publicly advertising on social media that they are entering and peeing standing up. I mean, how much dysphoria do you have if you pee standing up if you think you're a woman? In women's bathrooms, filming in women's bathrooms, taking pictures with other women in the background, even sometimes children. Again, I have video of a man masturbating in a women's restroom. Now, I agree, no one should be masturbating in either bathroom, but definitely a man should not be masturbating in the women's restroom.
Weirdly enough. But no, it turns out that was an orchestrated thing by that Jeffrey fellow. He was like, you know what if we tell everybody what's happening here on the island, but we accuse the trans people of doing it? That way no one will be looking at my island. What could possibly go wrong?
Just deflect, and blame others.
Strauss
So you
signed
don't
off
have
on the plan,
yeah.
apparently, so it must be smart.
Oh yeah, because you know science.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. There's so much nonsense. But no, they don't care. I mean, look at one of the most famous transphobes in the world, Miss Riley Fifth Place. You know, she's made a career out of being very upset that
Does Riley not get to speak for women? Are you, Ember, a man telling Riley that Riley cannot speak for women? Riley wants men out of women's sports. That is the only thing I've seen from Riley. Stay out of women's sport. Well, also stay out of women's spaces. That is the only thing I've seen from Riley. I have not seen let's harass these men. I have not seen we need to make it illegal for these men to dress how they want. All Riley has said is stay out of women's sports, stay out of women's spaces. That is all Riley has said. And you don't like that because you're a man. And you, as a man, cannot take away Riley's consent. Riley's consent and those of the other on our team. And again, I have another video on this. I have a short one, a couple of shorts on this of when they testified. You do not get to consent for women to be in a women's locker room. And some of these women are religious and some of them just don't like it. They go in assuming this will be a women's space. And that was taken away from them. And you two endorse it. And you still take the high road.
tied for fifth place with the trans woman. And
that's because Leah Thomas was a sucky male swimmer. Go ahead. Check out his record. He's a sucky male swimmer. If Michael Phelps or any top 10 man entered that competition, the women wouldn't win. They wouldn't win at all. Leah Thomas is a sucky man, and you're saying we're going to allow sucky men to compete in women's competitions because we can't. Now, I have another video somewhere. I think it involves Luxander, maybe Arden, talking about Leah Thomas and Riley Gaines. So you're free to check that out. Maybe if I remember, I'll link it in the description box. But what Ember's saying here doesn't really stack up when you look at the facts.
Got beat by 4 cis women. The 4 cis.
No, got beat by 4 women. Okay, a man and Riley Gaines and everybody 6 and on got beat by other women, which Riley is not part of that category.
Trans women are dominating the sports, but the trans woman got beat by 4 cis women. Okay, but she tied for 5th, traumatized her for.
That was one race, Ember. One race. Okay. One race.
Life. She's been paid truckloads of money to go around and speak about the horror of her experience of tying with another woman. And she's never said a word about her coach who actually was assaulting her teammates, who actually was doing.
Wow.
Now, that is a good point. If true, I don't know about it. I don't know the facts. But if it's true, that is a good point. Now, one thing I would say with that being ignorant of the situation would be that maybe Riley has kept silent for legal reasons. So I don't know. I don't know if he's been prosecuted or if in process of being prosecuted. I will try to remember to look that up. Thank you.
The naughty thing to her teammate. Yeah, like she doesn't give a shit because he actually is a predator. He actually is hurting girls on her own team.
I don't think Riley ever said, maybe she did, that Leah Thomas was a predator. It's just that this is a female space. We went to the organization and they said we could not do anything. Some women were changing it in the lockers. And there was Leah Thomas walking around with his dong hanging out. There was even a grape victim that had to deal with this. So is Ember saying, get over being graped? You need to deal with it. Or is Ember going to show empathy for the woman that was graped and say, yeah, that was pretty wrong that they, even if they allowed Leah Thomas to compete, Leah Thomas should not have been in the changing room.
Team. Not a word. Because that's not the point. It's the same thing with bathrooms. They don't care about protecting women and girls. They care about drawing attention from the people who are hurting women and girls.
Privacy, consent, dignity, comfort. Again, it's very concerning that these two and others like them immediately go to harm. It's very concerning.
They're like, oh no, don't look at these files right here. The 1% is actually the ones that are, the 1% that trans people are the ones that are doing the harm and doing the.
If, I don't know what the number is, but we'll say 30% of all men are prone to criminal acts, specifically those of violence, that corresponds to trans entitled men. So if AJ was to argue, well, it's a small amount of those, of that small amount of a small percentage doing this, we're going to excuse them, then I hope AJ never said anything about priests, because all priests are only 1% of the population. Did you know that?
Thing and having the surgeries and doing the hormones and paying enormous prices and.
Oh, wait a minute. Again, AJ, is it? Let's say I sincerely tomorrow identified as a woman. Sincerely, do I get to go into women's restrooms, or is it only when I've gone through all this? And how do we know whether a man dressed as a woman going into a women's restroom has done all this? And at what point in that process? The beginning, the middle, the end? Well, no, there's no literal end because you'll be on medication for the rest of your life. But What point, AJ? At what point? Let me know. So we got, is it just identity or is it going through all this, and how far into this process? And what is gender? What is woman?
Putting up with hate and violence, all so that you can go enjoy the bathroom for 3 seconds. Yeah, ridiculous.
I'd like to know the person that can go in there and do their business in 20 seconds.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the same nonsense as, Leah Thomas did an interview recently where the person interviewing her was like, so you transition just to win medals, right? Like, are you kidding me? Yes,
Oh yeah.
I went through years of therapy and hormones and strength training to build my body back up after I lost all my muscles and dealt with all the hatred from the public. So
I doubt you lose all your muscles. And if Leah Thomas was an athlete, I'm sure they were constantly practicing and would take that loss less so than just a person that just lays around all the time.
could win a 5th place trophy that one time.
Yeah.
One time. There are other races, Ember. Oh my gosh, there are other races. Get over this one race. You need to take the whole.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Unlike you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. But of course, there is a bit more to it than just detracting from the actual predators. Like, there's bioessentialism. It's just sexism.
Darn. I thought he was going to say comfort, privacy, dignity, consent.
Branded. I like to say that transphobia is just misogyny with extra steps, because it's saying,
It is.
I'm not a transphobe. I'm stating that men are men and women are women, and there are social boundaries that we have established, and you guys do not need to barge in breaking those social boundaries just because you want to.
women, you are nothing but uteruses. Therefore, if you don't have uteruses,
You don't have a uterus, Ember.
you're not women. Because,
And then they're like, well, but like a small percentage of women don't, have uteruses, and that's okay. They still consider women.
It's not that they're considered women, it's that they are women, and it's based on the reproductive pathways their body will or should have taken. Biological facts again.
But then we are like, well, what about the small percentage of women that have, penises? And they're like, no, that's a man. But then you just say
here's
that a
fun
small
fact.
percentage of
Everyone has a penis.
Oh yeah.
We love to do this 3rd grade biology: penis man, vagina woman. Everyone.
How many times do I have to hammer this in? 99+% of the time, penis and vagina are accurate determiners of sex.
One has a penis. The penis is a socially constructed object, and that you
no, the penis is a biologically constructed object.
may think this is weird. I've seen penises. Maybe you've even had penises in your mouth. I don't judge. But yeah, everyone has that piece of tissue, that glands. That's all that is. It's the same piece of tissue on man.
Why is the clitoris more sensitive than a male's penis? As far as I understand, the clitoris really has a bundle of nerves that excite the woman. I don't know. Maybe other men are different, but I don't really feel that I have this ultra sensitive. I mean, wow. The orgasms I've seen from women I'm envious.
Males and females. It's bigger on males. It's almost indistinguishable from a clitoris on a conservative man, but it is the same piece of tissue.
Good thing I'm not a conservative man.
And they still can't find it.
The way we tell the difference is we actually have a special ruler called a phallomometer, and if it's over a certain length, we go, behold a male. If it's
well, I don't know who you're talking about or why you've accepted this, Ember, but a clitoris is on a woman and a penis is on a man. I don't need a ruler for that.
Under certain length, we go, oh, that must be a clitoris. But if it's in between, we get out that ruler. If it's not obvious, we get out the ruler. And if it's in that range where it isn't clearly one or the other, the doctor makes a decision and then they do a surgery about it.
Oh, we're talking about, okay. Ember wasn't clear in the context. I guess this whole time Ember has been talking about babies. Well, I would think these days there are more accurate tests that would determine if it's a male or a female. So I don't know. Again, something I don't know a lot about, but there's a lot of things that Ember has already demonstrated that he doesn't know a lot about. So I'm questioning whether or not Ember actually knows about this or if this is just some nonsense that he's heard.
Yeah.
It's social. It's the same organ.
It really
and
is.
It's social.
No, it's reproductive pathways. That is biology.
And not to get too graphic here, but there are cis females that have what isn't as large as a penis, but it is larger than what the average clitoris is. So it's kind of
sure.
like
A
an
lot of
in-between.
trans men
Yeah.
report on a phenomenon they call bottom growth, which, because it's later in their life, older you get.
Yeah, that I love to hear and push back on. And it is that trans women are just men in dresses. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why does a body part, even if we are going just by body parts, why does a body part determine what type of clothing you can wear? Obviously, if you
I don't disagree.
don't have either of your arms, if you lose both of your arms, you're not going to need long sleeves, right? But does that mean you're not allowed to wear them? No. So if you don't have those parts down there that people think are the only parts you need to have,
Wearing a dress does
I've seen
obviously
them. I love it.
all about biology, then it has nothing to do with your attire. But the most badass president the United States has ever had, Teddy Roosevelt, he wore a dress until the age of 13,
Love it.
It doesn't matter.
Did he wear a dress or did he just wear kind of a gown type thing that they kept over all kids?
Really doesn't. I mean, we have all sorts of, we have all sort of, and that's why we call it in Asian countries, then you can.
I know this is taking a long time, so I'm trying to find where they talk directly to me.
It's just such a silly thing to determine.
Hot, but also you get to play with pretty colors.
Trans friendly now, but she did grow up.
Okay, I will pause here and get back with you guys when I find when they're addressing me. So it appears that this may be the point where I was already gone, and I'm not going to address that because I think I will probably just be repeating a lot of the same things that I've already repeated several times, but that's because they keep repeating stuff that need that necessary context. So what have we learned? Well, for one thing, unless they did it after I left or I missed it, they never defined gender. Also, AJ brought up a post about what is a woman. Neither AJ nor Ember ever defined what a woman is. And finally, they sat there and tried to say that I can't speak to this because I'm a man. Well, so is Ember. So why is Ember speaking to this? Why does Dillamonkey, Jimmy the Cub, and Professor Dave get to speak to this, but I can't? So please let them know they need to be consistent if they don't watch this video, that if I can't speak to this, then neither can any trans entitled man, and neither can Matt Dillamonkey, neither can Jimmy, neither can Professor Dave, neither can any of those atheist activists and trans ideologists that are men can speak to this. Thank you for watching. I know it's been a long one, but I felt this needed to be said. And please like, subscribe, share, comment. You be nice. I'll be nice.